All right, let's bring in Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator, former leader of the NDP. Tom, good to see you.
Good to be with you, Todd.
Hey, let's start with your old party, the NDP, and concerns they could get decimated in the election, squeezed between the Liberals and the Conservatives, possibly losing party status. I understand that it's not a sure bet really in any of their ridings, including Leader Jagmeet Singh's own riding in British Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, Jagmeet's a great fighter, as we just saw in that clip, but his riding saw its boundaries redrawn, and it was not to the advantage of the NDP. And there is a lot of speculation, in fact, that he will have a great deal of difficulty holding on to his British Columbia riding. It's always been tough for him as well, because he, of course, works in Ottawa. Parliament is the core of his family is in Toronto, and of course he's out in BC. It's difficult, and you can just imagine it's not made easier by this campaign, which is a snap campaign going very fast, and he's got to try to cover the whole country. He's on one of his themes, trying to personalize it a little bit around Mark Carney, which I think is a bit of a stretch, because the company that he worked for had $1 trillion in assets, and it's going to be here and there. So if you want to find somebody who rents a store in a building that was one that's owned by Brookfield Asset Management, and you think that that's a thing, well, go for it. But I'm not sure that the average Canadian is going to follow that logic.
All right, let's talk about the Globe and Mail's report about alleged Indian government interference in the Conservative leadership race from 3 years ago, in which Pierre Poilievre, of course, won by a substantial margin. Your thoughts, Tom, on the impact of that and the nature of it, the question swirling. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that Pierre Poilievre is right now, and he has always been right when he has refused these so-called security briefings, because it would require him to say that he wouldn't do his job. The leader of the official opposition, His Majesty's loyal opposition, has a job under our Constitution to hold the government to account. And it's not true that because somebody in the security apparatus says, well, if you want this information, you're going to have to promise never to use it, that means that a leader of the opposition is being irresponsible if he doesn't take the bait. I would never have accepted to do that. When there were serious security issues, you know what used to happen? Stephen Harper, respecting constitutional convention, would call me. His staff would set it up, and once I was at a wedding, and they tracked me down because he wanted to share with me some important information that he knew would be in the news in the next couple of days, and he wanted me to have it. And it's a clear understanding that in your role, when you're being shared information like that by the Prime Minister, you're going to hold on to it. You're not going to go and blab it at a press conference. So I do think that this is a bit of a mugs game that they're playing right now with Poilievre. I'm not saying that there isn't somebody somewhere who heard something about the leadership race, but what is it going to prove? That Poilievre won by 67% and not 68%? Is that the goal here? I can't quite understand why Mr. Carney, with the incredible campaign that he's running, all of his high-level ideas, his deep experience, the respect that he commands, falls into the trap of playing these very old personal games. Poilievre was playing those games against him at the beginning, and by the way, Poilievre sent the elevator right back up to him, saying, oh yeah, well, what was he doing in China with the Chinese Communist Party, getting $250 million for Brookfield from a bank? Of course, a non sequitur, but it's the type of game that the Liberals decided to play today. And on a similar subject, Poilievre shoved it right back in their faces because he's good at this. And so since this is not the type of person or game that's usually about Mark Carney, I'm surprised to see him drawn into this. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the reporting in the Globe and Mail. There might indeed have been some untoward stuff. If you've ever been in Canadian politics, you know that diaspora politics and fundraising and phone calling and pushing is part of it. Did something actually go on here? Could be, because the person they said was hurt by this, Mr. Brown, who's now a mayor in the Greater Toronto Area, might have been close to one part of the Indo-Canadian community and not another. That's all possible. But at the same time, I think that you got to be really careful playing with this stuff in the middle of an election campaign. Let's stick to what the issues are for Canadians in this election and not go back to stuff that has been settled and closed by a full judicial inquiry by a very competent, neutral judge named Madame Commissioner Hogg, and she did a heck of a job, and she did not say that this is a road that we should be going down.
Was it a mistake for Mark Carney to decline an invite for a second French debate by TVA? Tom, what do you think?
It was an incredible boneheaded mistake by the people around Carney, because Mr. Carney yesterday morning, in answer to a question about it, said, pourquoi pas? Translation, why not? And then there were some other things that he added, but he clearly indicated that the Liberals were in. Now, Canadians can ask themselves, and it's a fair question, well, why should there be two French debates? And I'll just refer you back to what happened on Sunday when the launch took place. Carney's there getting all the questions. every single question was in English. Mark Carney graciously translated some of his answers, and there was one single French question asked at the end by Le Devoir newspaper. The campaign itself is 95% English. For French-speaking voters, 8 million of them in Canada, to get a fairer idea of the policies, the principles, who's involved, who the candidates really are, what their parties are standing for. Yes, there's this so-called commission debate, which costs $1.5 million. They have a $3 million budget for 2 commission debates, and they have $600,000 a year for their staff. And here, TVA, which is saying, by the way, full disclosure, I work for TVA also, but TVA is simply saying, look, we had to lay off 500 people. We can't pony up the hundreds of thousands of dollars that this thing costs. And they asked the parties to help by putting in 75 grand each. The Conservatives, the Bloc, and the NDP said, we're in. The Liberals said no. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Poilievre has just offered to pay the Liberals $75,000. I thought that was a very, very good move on his part, frankly.
Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator, former leader of the NDP, eagle eye that he is. Thanks for this, Tom. We'll talk again.
Talk to you soon, Todd. All the best.